Batman the Animated Series might get a sequel on HBO Max. He is vengeance. He is the Knight. He is indisputably one of the best iterations of Batman on any screen, large or small. Nearly 3 decades after it premiered in 1992, the critically acclaimed Emmy Award-winning Batman the Animated Series remains one of the definitive portrayals of the Caped Crusader. And now, for the first time since the finale of Justice League Unlimited in 2006, this version of the Dark Knight could return to our television screens once more in the form of a brand new sequel. Now, if you're scratching your head and wondering if the Clock King is behind all of this because time no longer has any meaning, and you could have sworn we reported on this very story back in April of last year, you're not wrong. Last April we told you about Batman The Adventures Continue, a canonical sequel to Batman the Animated Series. It was a 6-issue digital comic series written by the cartoon showrunners Paul Dini and Alan Burnett, and illustrated by Ty Templeton in the iconic Bruce Timm style of the original show. And while that comic did in fact come out, this news is actually about a rumored new BTAS sequel that would be coming to HBO Max. The news, which we spotted via comic book, comes courtesy of the Fat Man Beyond podcast, during which hosts Mark Bernardin and Kevin Smith dropped a major bat shell on us. Now, according to Bernardin, the rumor is that HBO Max is looking at making a Batman the Animated Series sequel, that they want to continue that forward. Now, while this is still an unconfirmed rumor, Kevin Smith was quick to chime in that he had heard similar rumblings. I'm not involved, but I too have heard this, and I've heard this from very reliable people. When I heard it, I freaked out, and I heard this, I would say, a month before you just said it. I think that's real. I don't think that's a rumor. I wouldn't say set your watch to it, but it's an idea whose time is not only coming, I think it came, and it's smoking a cigarette. I think that's gonna happen. Now, the full Kevin Smith quote is a lot longer with way more F-bombs, so if you want to hear the full conversation for yourself, skip ahead to the 2:03:50 mark in that podcast. Now, given Smith and Bernardin's insider status in Hollywood, it feels likely there is an undercurrent of truth to these rumors, but for now, that's all they are. And while we may not be the world's greatest detective, we did some sleuthing of our own. After some digging, Nerdist was unable to verify this story with our own sources, so take it with a Bane-sized grain of salt for the time being, and if anything changes, we'll let you know over on Nerdist.com. But in the meantime, let's put on our thinking cowls to see what we can glean about what a potential sequel series might encompass. So if the series takes its cues from the digital comics miniseries that dropped last year, it wouldn't be a true sequel that bridges the gap between Batman the Animated Series and Batman Beyond, but rather more of a collection of lost episodes or tales that were never told. That miniseries took place shortly after the first time Batman and Superman cross paths during the World's Finest crossover, as well as shortly after Tim Drake becomes Robin during the animated series timeline. Speaking about the comic, Alan Burnett said, "We're going back to cover certain gaps in the original series, events that didn't have a bearing on the series at the time, but now do. In other words, there will be secret histories that will turn Batman's world upside down, things that no one knew were out there until now." So clearly even the series showrunners are interested in revisiting this world, and the success of other DC animated projects on HBO Max like Harley Quinn shows there is a healthy appetite for this kind of comic book inspired content. And while the series is not yet confirmed, much like Batman's parents dying, it kind of feels like an inevitability, and if they're planning on making a true sequel rather than a sidequel, kind of like what they did with the comic, then this could be a prime opportunity to finally explore that time period between Batman the Animated Series and Batman Beyond. You could give us crucial context for how and why Gotham City changed so dramatically over the years. Although, considering that there's still a Batman and masked vigilantes and supervillains running around, maybe it didn't change that dramatically after all. Regardless, if there is an opportunity to have more of Kevin Conroy's dulcet tones as the Dark Knight, you better believe we're going to take that in any form we can get.
Bingo.
But in the meantime, tell us, what do you think of this news? Should they make a Batman the Animated Series sequel? What do you want to see from a sequel series? And why did you say more Condiment King like that?
Quiet.
Let us know in the comments below, and for the latest and greatest in the world of pop culture, stay tuned to Nerdist.com.